On today's episode, I'm going to make the case to Keith Sanchez that Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami, is the 2025 NFL Draft's QB1. Is he going to agree, or does he have another name to throw into the hat? We're going to find out that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. And you know, I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, man, and the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated here. DP, we about to make the case, man, for QB1. We're going to see if we're on the same side of the table this or we're on opposite sides, man. Then guess what? We're doing a prospect spotlight, right? We're picking that prospect, putting a spotlight on them, say, hey, you have to go perform. And then we're going to have a conversation, man, about our guy, DJU. Red shirt or go pro, right? That seems like your only two options. We're going to have that conversation. Let's get into it, DP.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Make the case, Keith. When you look at this quarterback class, everything is still, we still got a lot of games, big games to go through, playoffs, conference championships, all that good stuff, right? But through the first 6 weeks of this season, for me, the case I'm making for QB1 is Miami quarterback Cam Ward, 69.2% completion percentage, over 2,200 yards passing and 23 total touchdowns, 20 passing, three on the ground using his legs. And watching the tape of this young man, did my initial preliminary report over at Bleacher Report. That should be up sometime this week. Cam Ward, for me, when I watch him, this guy has superstar potential. And you see it like every single game. And I think you talked about a couple episodes ago, a couple days ago, like it was upset Saturday. Like Bama lost and USC lost. And like, you got teams that you didn't expect to lose. And he was like, yeah, like Miami should have lost that game. And it's back-to-back weeks where they were down. And some people said, well, Cam Ward played a part of it. He had some turnovers, right? And he did. But the reason why they were able to win that game is Cam Ward was able to put him on his back and lead him out, lead him down the field. 21 points in the fourth quarter, back-to-back, I call him cardiac Cam at this point. Like they put you through so much these last 2 weeks watching these games. If you're a fan of him or of the Hurricanes, what he has in his bag is the physical tools for me. When I look at him and Shedeur are my top two QBs. Carson Beck has dropped down. He's still hovering around QB3. Quinn Ewers is probably going to has a chance to make a case for that. Shedeur and Cam are my top two QBs. I have Cam over him. The physical tools are there, but he's also accurate. He's a more mobile, a better athlete, and he's willing to use his mobility. That's one of the things that I knock Shedeur for. Get out of the pocket. You don't play behind a great offensive line. Activate your legs a little bit earlier and everything like that. But for me, looking at what Cam Ward is able to do and what he brings to the table, I think he's the type of guy teams want to build around with that type of skill set. There's no throw he can't make. And he has the accuracy at all three levels also to not just have the arm talent to get it there, but he can deliver it there with precision.
Yeah, with DP, you said something with Cam Ward, right? You said had the potential to be a superstar. Well, guess what? My guy, Sheduer Sanders, he's already a superstar, man. He's been a superstar for a long time, and that's why I'm making the case for him to be QB1. And listen, I'm gonna talk about this, right? Just being in the spotlight, right? You watch Sheduer Sanders all the way from him coming out of high school to Jackson State to Colorado. The guy has played under pressure, right? And he's played in very bad situations, and he's performed well in bad situations. And that's what I'm looking at. We always talk about the transition from college to NFL, right? It's very rare that you go to a situation like CJ Stroud went to or Caleb Williams went to, right? So you talk about QB1, somebody that can put it on his shoulders. I can make the case that potentially, depending on where he goes in the NFL, that would still be a better situation for him than what he's had at Colorado. So I'm watching him put everything on his back. And then you look at a quarterback. How many quarterbacks have thrown back-to-back Hail Marys, right? He threw two, right? The first one didn't work. He came back with the second one, and you pulled up the stats, DP, 70% completion percentage, 1,600 passing yards, and 15 total touchdowns. And that's including a blowout against Nebraska, right, where nobody played well, right, including Shedeur. But I look at it like this. Like I said, being able to put everything on your back, being able to go in week and week out. I remember when a comment was made during Big 12 media days, right? And he talked about, hey, we're everybody's Super Bowl. He's getting everybody's best shot. And he's been getting everybody's best shot for the past 2 years. And some of that he puts on his shoulders, right, from what he says. But some of that is from the top down, right? I don't know any other head coaches that put that much pressure on potentially their quarterback, right, to go in and go up and do what they have to do. Now, the mobility part of it, can Shedeur get more effective at it? Yeah, but I think he's also an underrated athlete as far as he has enough mobility to get out of the pocket, be able to escape the pocket and make those throws. And I would say this, I think that Shedeur is more skilled in the accuracy department as far as ball placement, putting the ball in very specific situations. I talked about Cam Ward. I thought the Cal game might have been his best game so far of his college career. He just, like, the way he was hitting those seam routes, I was very impressed. But watch Shedeur, I think he does those things all the time, like rolling out to his left, and he's putting that thing low and away on the sideline to a wide receiver like Jimmy Horn or LaJohntay Webster, right, to be able to catch those passes. So I'm going with Shedeur right now when you're talking about making a case for QB1, just because in totality, you're talking about the pressure that he plays in, the situation, right, and just everything else. I think that he's balling right now.
Oh, 100%. No, Shedeur is balling. I think, to you talk about the pressure, when you put, like, for Cam Ward to go from, because it's a big thing right now, and I've had this discussion on Twitter, people are waiting for the shooter drop for Cam. They're waiting for that summertime kind of pre-notion bias to kick in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, well, this is Washington State Cam Ward all over again. It was like, well, Washington State Cam Ward would have lost the last two games we saw them have, where he made those mistakes and the maturity of them, the leadership. If you listen to him, for those who didn't stay up, it's on YouTube too. Go listen to him in the interview with ESPN after the game. He said, they asked the question, what caused the turnaround? He said, me. He said, because I made mistakes. I was chasing the big play, and Coach Austin talked to me, calmed me down, and I had to start playing better. And that type of onus is big. And you don't see a lot of quarterbacks that have that level of confidence that he plays with, that's willing to just say, I messed up. The O-line was good. The run game was good. My receivers were good. I'm the one who was messing up. And to watch him, when you're playing for Miami, a team that they've been waiting for the longest to say we're back, like, there's a different type of pressure that comes with that. And to watch him just, like, even when he does make – we watch quarterbacks that make mistakes, right? I mean, we talk about it, like Bryce being in Carolina. When he makes mistakes, you could see his confidence. If it was a bar, it just lessens every time he made mistakes. We've seen that with different quarterbacks. Watching Cam Ward against, who was it? Virginia Tech. He had 3 turnovers early in that game, right? Dick couldn't really tell. Like, you couldn't tell. He was never bothered by it. He had a short memory, and he kept throwing. He kept punching. He's a gunslinger. And I agree with you. Shedeur is he's a little bit more in terms of ball placement, a little bit more precise and more of a pure precision passer in the short, especially the short range. When we get 15, 20, and even 30 yards down the field, that's where like Cam separates himself as a special thrower, because he's able to put the ball in places down the field, one-on-one, outside the numbers, out in front, that Shedeur still, to an extent, struggles with. And I think it's more so a little bit due to Shedeur doesn't have that caliber of arm that Cam Ward has.
Yeah, I would say that, and then also right, the surrounding parts also help. You know what I'm saying? Like to be able to make a comeback like that, I do believe that Cam Ward played a big part of it. But Miami's wide receiver core is nothing to seize at, right? Like we've been waiting for Sam
It
Brown to
ain't
get going.
Colorado's though.
Huh?
It's not Colorado. It ain't Colorado's receiving core though.
I don't know. DPs, David Restrepo, Sam Brown, Elijah Arroyo at tight end, Damian Martinez at running back. They have another backup running back, Jalen Rivers at offensive line. They got some guys over there, DP. We can't
Some
sniff
guys.
at it, right?
Travis Hunter. I'm taking Hunter, Wester, Shepard, and Horn over their top 4 receivers. I'm taking that all day.
I don't know about that. We'll see, and we'll let this thing continue to play out. But we got to transition real quick, man. And coming up next, man, we're gonna talk about prospect spotlight, right? Which guy we're gonna put the spotlight on that has to perform well this upcoming weekend in order for the team to win.
ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use LockedOnNFL at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 50% off. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Guys, I'm telling you right now, you know the same way I do. If you're going to an event with family, friends, or group, trying to find consecutive seats that are side by side can be a hassle. All the fluff going through all those tickets, that's why Game Time Picks exists. What also I love about Game Time, they should have views from all the seats in the venue. So before you purchase your ticket, you know what vantage point you and your party will have. They have lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection, guys. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Guys, it's game time. Prospect spotlight, Keith, and a guy that, I mean, he's feels like he's been quiet. This, like, not in a bad way, but typically when we talk about corners and offensive tackles, if we don't hear your name called, you're typically doing your job, right? You know what I mean? Benjamin Morrison for Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, Riley Leonard's been playing a little bit better as of late, Keith, getting the offense going. That defense is good. And they have Stanford, I think, at home. I think Stanford comes into Notre Dame. And Benjamin Morrison, I'm expecting him to probably travel with and try to lock down Uiagalelei. Like, that's their best receiver at Stanford. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know the other receivers on the team. That's the guy. That's the guy that you have to stop. If you stop Elick, you can stop this passing offense and just shut them down. Really, especially if they can't get the run game going. If Daniels isn't back at quarterback, and Benjamin Morrison is gonna play a big part of that, man. I think looking at kind of looking at him on the season. He's been targeted 27 times. He's only allowed 12 receptions, and only 2 games allowed in coverage of over 40 yards. He has not allowed a single touchdown, but he doesn't have an interception. He's got 2 PBUs on the season as well. This is probably his best, I would say, looking at his schedule. This might be it. No, it's not even might. This is his best challenge to date. And I think this is an opportunity for him. At the end of the day, this cornerback class is going to be between him, Will Johnson, and potentially Travis Hunter. And everybody else just had to catch up and find their way. And I think with Benjamin Morrison, I'm putting the spotlight on him. I need him to go out there, Keith, and handle business. Like, if you are the guy, because Keith, what it is that every time people talk about him now, it's, man, you know how good he did against Marvin Harrison Jr. last year? It's like, yeah, guess what? That was last year. You know what I mean? That's not 2024. And even then, Marv still had success against him and everything like that as well. So it's like, all right, who are you what top receiver are you going to lock down this year? And I think that you finally got your big test, and that's Uiagalelei. And when you look at Notre Dame's schedule, Keith, in terms of talented teams, they have a soft schedule. You got Georgia Tech, Navy, Florida State, Virginia, Army, and then you travel to USC to close the season. You're not seeing any of these top Big Ten receivers or top SEC receivers on the week-to-week basis. Like, you don't even have Ohio State this year. I would have loved to see Benjamin Morrison versus Jeremiah Smith against Emeka Egbuka this year, but we don't have that because of the conference realignment. So, Benjamin Morrison, this is your top test. You got to go out here and give us an A.
Yeah, it has to show up. And you talked about the cornerback class already, and I agree with that, right? Like that we need to be able to solidify 1, 2, 3, 4, right, and start putting that together. Because I think you have 1 and 2 with Travis Hunter and Will Johnson, however you feel about it, flip-flop them, right? And then cornerback 3, right? Like other names get thrown in there. It's Benjamin Morrison, but it's Takario Davis, right? People are talking about the corners from Virginia Tech. So the cornerback from Kansas, Kobe Bryant, right? So definitely it's just time to solidify, right? And you have an opportunity to go and do that. Now, DP, I'm going with Quinn Ewers, man. I'm going with Quinn Ewers. You know, I like big game hunting DP. You know, I'm going for the big names. And here's why. Red River Showdown, rivalry, showdown. I think it's both of them, right? I think you go with both of them, right? Yeah. And listen, the reason I'm saying that is because you're coming back off of injury, right? You're coming back. Texas is ranked, I believe, the #1 team. You're playing against Oklahoma. It's a rivalry game, big time matchup. But also this, DP, you're playing to put your name back in because of what we just did in the last segment. Put your name back in conversation for quarterback 1. I went back this morning because we're putting together some prospect list, DP, and watched that Michigan game. That was a great QB performance by Quinn Ewers, point blank period. Like when I went back and watched the game and just sat there and watched everything he did, great play calling by Steve Sarkisian, but that was a great QB performance by Quinn Ewers. So I'm sitting there looking at this like, hey, can you have repeat performances, right, of what you did against Michigan? And then, because I think what Texas could do is, if you have on your resume that we blew out Michigan and we blew out Oklahoma, right, we took care of both our situations. I think you look at it and you say, hey, these are the clear favorites for the best team in the country, right? Like on betting odds, right? We're probably, the betting odds to win the national championship because they look like a complete team. Quinn Ewers looked like everywhere from the top of his head, right? Like not just the neck up, from all the way down, right? Everything is moving in one I guess very synchronized, right? Like that, everything is connected, and I really love to see it, DP. And that's why I'm going to put him as the prospect spotlight, as somebody I'm watching, because go out there in a big time moment and perform well again, right? You're talking about getting Heisman odds back in your favor. You're talking about your team being the #1 team in the country. You're talking about you having to hush the noise about Arch Manning at the end of the day, right? So there's a lot of pressure on you. So I'm going to be paying attention to Quinn Ewers and how he performs. I like him. I had him as my QB1 for a couple weeks, throughout the season, right? Especially coming off of that Michigan game. He's dialed in, instinctual player, can make all the throws. Now it's just time to see him get the job done once again on his first game back. Your first game back is what? Oklahoma.
No, and a good Oklahoma defense, right? Good secondary, all of that. And they're coached by one of the best defensive minds in college football. So you're going to see a lot of pitcher changing, a lot of, hey, we're going to show you cover 1 pre-snap, but we're going into cover 2. We're dropping in the quarters. We're going to show you, they're going to give you simulated pressure, mug the A gap, drop off in the coverage, and drop 8, and try to contain that speed that you have at every single pass catching position on this Texas offense. And they got speed in the backfield. So, and the point you made about Arch Manning, that's probably the biggest thing. Because, Keith, I don't know if you've seen it, but like they have him on, the Dr. Pepper commercials, like the little college commercial, whatever they have, like the Fansville or whatever, and they put him on the commercial this year, and it's like this little running bit where like the sheriff in the town calls and is like, hey, I need backup, and Quinn Ewers pops up in the sheriff uniform. He's like, we don't need backup. Like, we don't need backup. I'm here. We don't need backup.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yep.
So it's like he's basically saying we don't, like, playing the running joke. We don't need Arch Manning. You got me. We're good. And for him to then get hurt with the oblique, miss 2-3 weeks, right? Let Arch get in there, play 2 or 3 games. Now, you know how fickle fans can be. At the end of the day, you know how fans can be. if you don't go out here and win this game, or you don't look good in this game, but you pull out a win, there are going to be some fans who are just like, yeah, let's get back to Arch. Let's go ahead. No more wait for the future. No more preparing for the future. The future is now. And that was kind of the risk you run with coming back and then potentially getting hurt again. Quinn definitely has to go out there and ball. The spotlight will be on him because, again, Keith, the stock for Carson Beck. I know Pete Thamel said on ESPN that Carson Beck had multiple votes as could be the first QB taken. I'm gonna tell you right now, guys, that's not what I'm hearing. That stock is starting to trindle down and trickle down. And when he's trending downward, Quinn Ewers, you come out here and ball. Now you put yourself in that QB3, and for some people, QB2. If you're in the SEC, you knock off OU, and I think next week they got Georgia. Keith, you knock off those two teams back to back. Yeah, you're going to put yourself in the spot where you're like, all right, I don't care if it's Cam Ward or Sheduer Sanders, whoever's QB1 and QB2, go ahead and make some room because I'm coming to have a seat in this car at the table.
I agree without a doubt. DP, let's talk about our guy, man, Mr. DJU, right? This has been a long process. It's been it's been a lot of ups and it's been a lot of downs. It's been a lot of heartaches, right? Late nights, early mornings, DP with Mr. DJU, man. We're going to have this conversation. Should DJU, we talking about quarterback for Florida State, DJ Uiagalelei, should he go pro or redshirt? And we're going to talk about that coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch or an urge in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same exact page where you placed your bets. And right now, FanDuel Sportsbook has the season awards betting odds already uploaded for you. And guys, the AP NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year award is many suitors right now. If you're an Arizona Cardinal fan and you believe that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a big breakout season to close out the rest of this season, he is plus 1,600 right now in the live betting odds. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Again, you've placed your first $5 bet, you'll get started with $200 back in bonus bets. All you have to do is very simple, guys. Go to fanduel.com to get in on the action. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Keith, our guy, DJ Uiagalelei, broke, I think, either a finger or two in his hand, and the reports is that he is expected to miss the rest of the 2024 college football season. And now I could hear the jesting and jesters saying that, well, it doesn't really matter because he wasn't playing great in the first place. I can already hear him, Keith. This is a guy on the season, right? He's played 6 games, 1,061 yards passing, 4 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, completing 52.5% completion percentage right now. And I read an article from one.com said, could DJU have a 6th season of college eligibility? And it looks like he could. Because of the injury, he could attempt to secure a medical red shirt and return to college football for a 6th season. Now, Keith, I'm going to tell you something. I'm pretty sure that Cam Rising over at Utah has used a medical red shirt at least 3 times because he's 72 years old. No, I'm just kidding. But he's been in college football a long time. I think DJU could, but the question is, should he? Or should he just say, you know what? I'm gonna go pro. I'm gonna be honest with you, Keith. If he can secure that medical red shirt, I'm coming back. I'm not going pro after what we saw in 5 games. I'm not even trusting that the NFL evaluators I'm gonna get a fair shake in that sense of, well, maybe I can Joe Milton range, be a 6th-round pick. No, I'm not testing that. I'm getting that medical red shirt if they can give it to me. I'm hitting the portal again. I'm finding the best offensive situation with the best offensive weapons that are available and known to man that will recruit me, and that's where I'm landing. I'm going there. I'm a Will Howard this thing, and I'm going to a loaded situation so I can put my stats up and I can look better in 2025. After the season he's had, it's been tumultuous. Florida State, it just didn't go well. I don't want to go into the NFL unless I have to. If they say no medical red shirt, I don't have a choice, Keith. But if they say I can get that medical red shirt, stamp it. I'm coming back for one more.
Yeah, DP. I'm probably leaning towards coming back because there's no way that you can enter the NFL with confidence, right?
Yes.
With how he performed these past, and honestly, how he performed was probably some of his worst football, to be honest. Like, and
Yeah.
this is dating all the way back to Clemson, and Clemson was not good, but we still had a reason to point why it was not good, right? This like that was it just wasn't good at all. Like at Florida State, those first 4 or 5 games, there were moments, there were good throws, and then every time you get a little bit excited, something gets airmailed or something gets thrown in the dirt or overthrown, whatever it may be. So I'm looking at this situation and I agree with you that I'm trying to come back. But the
Yeah.
issue is this. This is the same reason why the NFL don't want you. The same reason why coaches are going to be hesitant to bring you in. Because if you're a
True.
head coach, you're sitting there and you're saying, Mike Norvell was literally the coach. I think he won coach of the year. I don't know. He went from coach of the year.
He was a hot
he was pretty,
name.
yeah, he was pretty much coach of the year, right? Like he
Uh-huh.
coach of the year. I'll give him that, right? Florida State was team of the year, should have won national championships. Everybody even had a sympathetic bone towards Florida State, right? And Mike Norvell, and credit for what he did in the portal, everything else, right? Florida State is back. Everybody's happy. Then in 5 games, you're almost fired. They don't want you no more. You're out of there. You can't coach. You shouldn't have been coach of the year. You won this. This was fake, right? It was a once in a lifetime type situation. And so, what head coach is going to put it on that? So I don't know what situation could he fall into, right? Like if you're a brand new coach at Ohio State, do you want to bring in a DJU? And you get what I'm saying? Like you potentially look at the film and you like, man, I don't know, right? Or any of these other teams. And so I just look at it. I would hopefully want to probably pick a coach, right? Like if maybe a Lane Kiffin, right? And because Jackson Daughter probably be gone this year, but it'll be a matter of if he wants to go there, or does he take a step down in talent overall, right? And go from a power 5 to a power 4 to a group of 5 team. And you go for one of these high powered offenses and say, hey, I could just go play there, right? Where the skill position players are just better. And then the level of competition is a step down. So it's definitely a difficult situation. I would go ahead, apply for the red shirt, try to come back, and then figure it out from there. I was thinking, does he go back to Florida State? Probably not, because the short is so leash, and I don't even think Norvell wants to get himself back into that situation once again, right? So definitely difficult.
No, and it's crazy because like the NCAA rule, like you could, because I don't believe he ever used his red shirt when he was at Clemson because he couldn't. Like I think his freshman year, Trevor Lawrence got hurt in the middle of the season, like the first, like I think like for 2 or 3 games, and he had to start. And that's when like people are like, oh man, like DJU was cooking. That was like probably one of the best stretches of his career was when he was young in Clemson, and he was balling that like 3-game stretch. But he never redshirted. He stayed. Trevor Lawrence jumped to the NFL the following year. Then he became the starter for like for the next 2 seasons. It wasn't great. Went to Oregon State, and that's kind of, I'm gonna be honest with you, Keith, that it seems like that might have been the mistake leaving Oregon State, because that was a team that ran the football, allowed you to get deep play action shots, deep crossers, and let you kind of play within your game of what you're comfortable with your big arm, different things like that, and get you settled into games because they could run the ball, where we watched Florida State struggle to run the ball. You couldn't get going, but he's played. So it's like to do a normal red shirt, you have to play 4 games, but no more. He's played 1 more. He played 5. So now it's all about the medical red shirt. If he can get that, we're both on the same page. Go ahead. If they say yes, you get the medical red shirt, DJU, go back to school.
Yep, I agree 100% with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Listen, man, I am Keith Sanchez, and you can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my co-host, my guy, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. On tomorrow's show, we preview week 6 of Saturday games in the college slate and the prospects you need to watch. And why is Will Howard, quarterback from Ohio State, why does he need to make a statement? I'm going to talk about that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.